Okay, I think we'll finally get started. So, hi everybody. I'm Andrea Buxton from Evolve Health and Life Coaching, and I'm a certified health and life coach. I work with people who are struggling to make healthy food and lifestyle choices, and I help them feel healthy and joyful and energetic again. So, I want to thank you all for coming to the How to Ease Anxiety and Depression by Healing Your Gut webinar. I'm going to talk for about 45 minutes, and then we're going to have a 15-minute or so question and answer period. So if you have any questions, you might want to jot them down during the presentation so you can ask them at the end. So tonight we're going to talk about what you can do to improve anxiety and depression without pharmaceutical drugs. And the key lies in your gut. So before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit more about me. Like, how did I end up talking to you about healing your gut? So I've always been adventurous and athletic. I love to hike, mountain bike, ski, and snowboard, and all the other fun stuff we do in Tahoe. And being outside in nature and moving my body is where I find my peace. It's where I find my grounding. And I do all these activities with my girlfriends, so it's also my social time. But unfortunately, several years ago, I was dealing with a leg injury that hurt with every step I took for about 2 years. And I had 2 surgeries within 1 year of each other. I sat on the couch a lot. I didn't see my friends very much. I didn't know if I would ever feel better. I felt totally hopeless and depressed. My anxiety got really bad. I focused on the negative, and I had a lot of trouble sleeping. I looked in the mirror and I looked old and tired, and I felt really old and tired. But what I learned during this time is that physical health is really the foundation of mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. How you feel affects your ability to get things done, what you believe is possible for you, your motivation, your energy levels, your mood, your relationships with other people, and your self-confidence, everything. Instead of feeling motivated and inspired and excited and alive and joyful, you feel moody and cranky and sad all the time. So I knew something had to change for me, so I found health coaching. And studying and practicing health coaching gave me something positive to do with my time and made me feel like I was accomplishing something other than just sitting on the couch feeling sorry for myself. And so this was a way for me to help myself and others out of the depression and lethargy that often accompanies less than optimal health. And as I started to heal physically, I started to feel better emotionally. And as I felt better emotionally, I felt even better physically. It was a positive feedback loop that just kept going up and up and up. And joy began to return to my life. I started to see my friends again. I started hiking and biking again. I felt younger. I felt inspired. My energy came back. I felt motivated. I literally felt like I got my life back. So the most basic tenet of my health coaching practice is that physical health is the foundation for mental, emotional, and spiritual wellness. So how do you think your mental and emotional states differ if you're feeling like yay in your body versus if you're feeling like ugh? If you're always feeling ugh in your body, you're probably thinking negatively and feeling pretty badly. You might be thinking, like, why do I feel so tired all the time? Why don't I ever feel like going out with my friends or my significant other? Why do I just want to sit home and watch TV? Why am I fighting with my significant other all the time? Why can't I connect with my teenager? Why don't I have the energy to get my business rolling or get that job promotion I've been wanting? You might also be having a conversation with God or source or the universe or whatever you call it that sounds something like, why aren't you supporting me? Why do I feel like I've been wishing and praying for the same thing forever and ever, but nothing changes? So you can see how physical health influences every other aspect of your life. But once you return that health and vitality to your physical body, all that joy and love and peace that's already within your divine being can shine through and illuminate everything you do. Your relationship to yourself, to others, your career, everything. When you feel alive and energetic, then everything else follows. You'll want to go out with your friends or do fun stuff with your significant other. You'll have a smile on your face when your teenager walks into the room. You'll be energetic at work and happy to talk to your clients or your coworkers. It's just such a different feeling to feel good in your body and mind. And that's a feeling that I'm dedicated to helping you achieve so that you can live your best life, which is what we're all here to do, right? So I developed a 6-step program to help people regain control over their health, where the ultimate result is really a mindset. The mindset shift entails making good food and lifestyle choices for yourself, not because you have to, but because you want to, because you feel so much better, both physically and emotionally. You can take care of yourself to improve your moods, improve your relationships, improve your productivity, and ultimately improve your life. I know that a chronic health condition like poor gut health, which I would venture to say the majority of us have, can leave you feeling just as lethargic and cranky and hopeless as my leg injury did to me. But the good news is that it is 100% within your power to heal yourself from that. So the 6-step program will teach you step by step how to take your physical health back into your own control, change the habits that aren't supporting your physical and mental health, develop intuition about your body, address beliefs that you have about yourself and the world that are keeping you stuck, feel great in your body, and improve your moods, no matter how far off track you feel like you've gotten. It'll help you say yes to yourself and follow through in a way you have never done before, so the results will be different. You will notice that once you take control of your physical health, particularly your gut health, you will start to feel better mentally and emotionally. So tonight, I want to show you how to heal your gut so you can experience a total transformation in your health, your energy levels, and your mental and emotional state that will give you your best body, your best moods, and your best life ever. We have a limited amount of time together tonight, but I'm going to teach you as much as I can about this topic, and then before we finish, I'll tell you how to take it further if you want to. Okay, so let's start talking about the gut. So 2,500 years ago, Hippocrates, who's the Greek physician known as the father of medicine, stated that all disease begins in the gut. And 2,500 years later, I think he's still right. So what is the gut? The gut is your digestive system. It's also called your gastrointestinal tract, and it's made up of your mouth and your salivary glands, your esophagus, your stomach, your small intestine, your large intestine, which is also known as your colon, your rectum, and the associated organs of the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. So most people think of the digestive system as just a system to digest food, absorb nutrients, and eliminate waste, but it is so much more than that. It is your primary means of interaction with the outside world. So in other words, you're taking in food from the outside world and it's assimilated and becomes part of your body. So it is your primary means of interaction with the outside world. It's also your first line of defense against all pathogens. It's an important pathway of communication with all your cells, including your brain, which is what we're going to talk about today. You can visualize your gut like the roots of a plant. If the roots extract nutrients from the soil, like your gut extracts nutrients from what you ingest. If the leaves of a plant are sick, you wouldn't treat the leaves, right? You would look at what's going on with the roots and what's in the soil. The idea of changing what you ingest to heal your gut and improve numerous chronic conditions, including your mental well-being, is the same. So I can't see or hear any of you. If we were in person, I would ask you this question out loud, but how many people have heard of the microbiome or the gut microbiome? I would venture to guess many of you have. But did you know that you're made up of 6 trillion human cells, but that you're host to 60 trillion bacteria? That means that you are 10 times more bacteria than human. Some of you might think that sounds totally gross, but these bacteria are your friends. They aren't the kind that make you sick. Collectively, they all make up your microbiome. And there are hundreds of different kinds of bacteria that make up your microbiome. Each different kind plays a different role in keeping your body balanced and healthy. Bacteria start colonizing your gut at birth. Actually, it happens when you go through the birth canal. You receive the bacteria from your mother's body. They also come in from the food you eat and whatever else gets in your mouth. So these beneficial bacteria live not only in your gut, where we're going to focus our attention tonight, but they also live on your skin, in your eyes, your nose, your throat. They're literally everywhere. And they serve more functions than we probably even know about yet. But we've developed a mutually beneficial relationship with all these guests. We live in symbiosis with them, which is to say we live together and we help each other. So let's focus on the intestines for a minute. After the food has gone through your mouth, down your esophagus, through your stomach, it ends up first in your small intestine and then in your large intestine before it gets eliminated. The intestines are where all nutrients get absorbed into your bloodstream to be assimilated by your body. The walls of our intestines are made up of cells that are packed really, really closely together. These cells are the barrier between the inside of your gut and your bloodstream. The spaces between the cells are called the tight gap junctions. In a healthy gut, these spaces, or tight gap junctions, stay really tight. They're designed to only let the very smallest molecules through. These very small molecules are the nutrients we can use. On the other side of the intestinal wall is the blood that transport those nutrients to all the other cells in your body. So on the slide here is a picture of a healthy gut with really tightly packed cells and very small spaces between the cells. The gut bacteria, or the gut microbiome, play a really important role in guarding these tight gap junctions and keeping them tight so that only the smallest molecules that our body knows how to use are let through the intestinal lining. Think of these beneficial bacteria as guards that stand at a castle wall. So the guards only let certain good molecules through and block the bad ones from entering the castle, which is like your bloodstream. If you have a healthy gut microbiome, you have plenty of guards and the right kinds of guards to make sure that only the right molecules enter your bloodstream. The good bacteria also produce chemicals that reduce inflammation. So if the cells are puffy and inflamed, they don't stay tight either. So the bacteria are serving two roles here. They're guarding the entrance, or they're guarding the tight gap junction, and they're also reducing inflammation. Okay, so what does it mean when your gut isn't healthy? So an unhealthy gut means your gut microbiome is compromised and unbalanced, and your intestinal lining is irritated and inflamed. So you don't have enough or the right kinds of guards at the castle wall, making sure that only the good molecules get into your bloodstream. The tight gap junctions aren't tight like they should be, and they leak. This is what's called leaky gut. So again, I can't see you all, but I'm hoping some of you have heard about leaky gut before. When the tight gap junctions aren't tight anymore, bigger molecules that our body doesn't know what to do with get into the bloodstream. This includes undigested food particles, toxins, parasites and harmful bacteria, yeasts, or other fungi. The undigested food particles could even be from like the best organic food, but if it isn't properly digested and broken down into the smallest molecules so that our cells can actually recognize and use, then it's no good. Everything that makes it past your intestinal barrier can now communicate with the rest of your body. Good molecules are used by the cells for growth and reproduction and repair. The bad ones cause havoc. So just to give you a quick visual, on the left is a small, quote unquote, good molecule or micromolecule from the complete breakdown of your food. Your body recognizes these and can use them, fine. On the right, we have a large, undesirable, or quote unquote, bad molecule or macromolecule that can pass through the tight gap junctions if they aren't tight. They aren't recognized by your immune system and it has to attack them. So now, because your gut is leaky, your gut's leaking, you have large molecules, toxins, parasites, bad bacteria, and yeasts or other fungi in your bloodstream that your immune cells don't recognize. So your immune system has to go on the attack. When your immune system is triggered, you get inflammation. And this inflammation causes a whole host of problems in your body, like achy joints, for example. But tonight we're talking about anxiety and depression. So guess what? It causes inflammation in your brain, which leads to brain fog, mood swings, anxiety, and depression. And unfortunately, there's a second problem. The barrier between your blood and your brain is similar to the barrier between your gut and your blood. And the community of bacteria that should be guarding this barrier will be similar to the community of bacteria in your gut. So if your gut microbiome is compromised, the microbiome at your blood-brain barrier will also be compromised. This means that the undesirable molecules that got into your bloodstream because your gut was leaky will now get into your brain because that barrier is also leaky. Some of these molecules can attach to receptors on your neurons and inhibit proper communication in your brain. And guess what that leads to? Let's just say nothing good for your mental well-being. So if you heal your microbiome will heal you. You can treat your symptoms with medication, but there's really no healing happening. So besides keeping our guts from leaking, what else do our gut bacteria do for us? They produce about 95% of our body's supply of serotonin. And serotonin is the brain chemical or neurotransmitter responsible for your mood and emotions. It keeps you happy and relaxed and calm. And low levels of serotonin have been linked to anxiety and depression and even low self-esteem. Low serotonin has also been linked to difficulty sleeping, poor memory, craving sweet or starchy foods, and aggression even. So if your gut bacteria aren't healthy, you aren't producing the serotonin you need to regulate your moods. So what causes the imbalance in our microbiome and consequently leaky barriers between our gut and our blood and our brain, as well as low levels of serotonin? There are numerous factors, but tonight I'm going to go over what I consider the 4 most important ones. These are poor diet, environmental toxins, stress, and lack of sleep. So let's start with poor diet. The 6 most detrimental things in your diet are gluten, dairy products, sugar, lack of dietary fiber, excessive alcohol consumption, and GMOs. So let's start with gluten. Everyone these days probably knows someone who's gluten-free. And most people just know that they don't feel good after eating gluten, but they don't really know why gluten's bad. Some people feel bloated, some get achy joints, some get rashes, some get brain fog. Gluten's found in grains like wheat and barley and rye, and gluten exacerbates leaky gut because it stimulates the production and release of a molecule called zonulin. And I don't want to confuse you with too many biochemical things, but zonulin is the molecule that opens those tight gap junctions to let the proper nutrients through the gut into the blood. But if you have too much zonulin, it's like putting a doorstop in the gate of the castle. The junctions stay open, the gut bacteria can't guard them effectively, and all the undesirable molecules slip through. When the undesirable molecules slip through, your immune system attacks them, and you get inflammation in the body and the brain. You might also get some of those undesirable molecules slipping through the barrier to your brain and jamming up your circuits. Dairy products. So humans are the only mammal, and you guys probably know this, that consumes milk beyond breastfeeding. And we don't produce the necessary enzymes to properly digest dairy products by the time we're about 8 years old. Eating dairy reduces the abundance and diversity of the gut bacteria. And we've learned that when we don't have the right amount or the right type of good bacteria, we can't keep the tight gap junctions tight and stuff leaks through. Improper digestion of the protein in milk also causes an immune response that slows down the passage of food through our digestive system. And when our food doesn't digest quickly enough, it putrefies into a toxic, inflammation-inducing waste in our guts, which further exacerbates leaky gut. Sugar. Excessive consumption of sugar can contribute to the overgrowth of many different kinds of pathogenic bacteria in your gut, especially yeasts or other fungi. So if you have large populations of bad bacteria in your gut that crowd out the good bacteria, you're more likely to have leaky gut. Sugar also affects the glucose levels in our bloodstreams, making us feel high temporarily and then sending us crashing into the dumps again. And this blood sugar roller coaster wreaks havoc on our moods and our mental well-being, leading to mood swings and increased depression. Dietary fiber. So fiber is an important nutrient that is often deficient in our typical high-fat, high-protein modern diets. Fiber supports healthy digestion in many ways, including ensuring regular bowel movements. But most importantly, fiber is also one of the primary foods for the bacteria in our gut that produce an amino acid called butyrate. So the bacteria in our gut eat the fiber and produce butyrate. And like I said, butyrate is an essential compound that we cannot get directly from the food. It must be produced by the bacteria. So butyrate enters our bloodstream from our guts, crosses the blood-brain barrier, where it stimulates the production of something called BDNF. And it's not important what that stands for, but BDNF is a chemical that supports our ability to learn, remember, and form new memories. Low BDNF is also associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. Insufficient butyrate also causes inflammation, which triggers leaky gut. That butyrate itself calms inflammation in our gut. So remember, if our guts are leaking, our brains are also leaking, and a greater amount of undesirable molecules reach our brains, clog up communication between our neurons, and cause anxiety, depression, and loss of cognitive function. Alcohol. Alcohol is intensely dehydrating. Your body is using all the water it can find to eliminate the toxin called alcohol. When we drink, we dry out our intestinal lining and kill off bacteria in our microbiome that calm inflammatory activity. We get intestinal damage and leaky gut, and we already know that leads to impaired brain function, including anxiety and depression. Moderate consumption is defined as just 1 drink for women and 2 for men per day. Anything beyond that is unfortunately compromising the health of our gut bacteria and therefore the tightness of our intestinal lining. GMOs, this one's my favorite. The long-term effects of eating genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, is unknown. What is known, however, is that since GMOs were introduced in 1996, numerous chronic physical and mental health problems have increased. The problems may be due to the genetic alterations in the plants themselves, but more likely they're due to the chemical in Roundup called glyphosate. And Roundup is the most widely used commercial pesticide in the United States. Genetically modified organisms have been genetically altered to be able to withstand the pesticide glyphosate. Glyphosate is meant to kill the pests that would otherwise attack the crops. However, normal plants would die right along with the bugs if they weren't altered to withstand the pesticide. So imagine a field of crops that can now bathe in Roundup without dying. When these crops are harvested, you're eating food that is covered in glyphosate. We're going to continue our discussion about GMOs in a sec, but I just want to bring us all back to the same page. So we're discussing 4 important factors in the health of your gut: diet, environmental toxins, stress, and lack of sleep. So we just finished with diet. Now we're going to move on to environmental toxins, in particular pesticides and antibiotics. So let's start with pesticides by continuing our conversation about GMOs from the previous slide. Pesticides, like the glyphosate that we're just talking about, are too effective. They not only eliminate the pests that attack our crops, like insects and rodents, but they also kill the bacteria living in the soil and on the plants that should recolonize our guts with good bacteria when we eat that food. Not only that, but when we eat pesticide-contaminated foods like GMOs, our gut microbiome is severely compromised because it kills the good bacteria in our guts too. So altering the community of bacteria in our guts by killing many of them means that we don't have enough of the right kind of bacteria to guard the gates of our intestinal lining, reduce inflammation, manufacture serotonin, and ensure proper communication in our brains. To top it off, glyphosate has been linked to certain types of cancers. Antibiotics. So antibiotic literally means antibacteria. Like pesticides, they kill both bad and good bacteria in your body. Pesticides are essentially antibiotics. This means that a single round of antibiotics can decimate your gut microbiome. With a healthy gut, the populations of good bacteria keep the populations of bad bacteria from proliferating. But if a large percentage of your good bacteria are wiped out, antibiotic-resistant pathogenic bacteria have the opportunity to get a foothold in your gut and spread, causing inflammation, leaky gut, low serotonin production, and wreaking havoc on your body and your mind. As a society, we are overexposed to antibiotics. We are exposed not only when we take a course of antibiotics as prescribed by a doctor, but also because we eat crops and farm animals that have been treated with antibiotics, and therefore we eat the residues in our food. The scariest thing is that a course of antibiotics can alter the composition of your gut microbiome for years. This means that you could still be suffering the effects of a course of antibiotics you took years ago. And I just want to say that I'm not trying to say that antibiotics aren't useful in many situations. We just need to limit our exposure and make sure we build our gut microbiomes back up after taking them. And I'll talk about that in a later slide. Stress. So amazingly enough, chronic stress, which really starts with the thoughts in your brain, can really affect our gut microbiome. So as much as the gut affects the brain also affects the gut. Communication between the gut and the brain is a really well-traveled two-way street. When we're chronically stressed, we're constantly in low-grade fight-flight mode, and the body is continually releasing hormones and neurotransmitters that are supposed to help you escape the tiger chasing you, but over time, it disturbs the balance in the microbiome. And unresolved stress exacerbates inflammation and leaky gut and reduces the diversity and abundance of bacteria in our guts that are supposed to protect us from stress's damaging effects. So this is a positive feedback loop, so things keep getting worse and worse and worse. This is an interesting thing. Childhood trauma and the stress it causes has been linked to dramatically different gut microbial communities in adults than in those who didn't experience the trauma. So this illustrates that imbalances in your gut can last a lifetime if they're not addressed. Lack of sleep. So insomnia affects the bacterial community in our guts. It alters digestive functions, the function of the immune system. It disrupts our biological rhythms. It impedes the metabolism of nutrients in the body. So much like stress, it's a vicious cycle that starts and ends in the gut. When we don't get enough rest, the health and diversity of our microbiome suffers. Scientists even suggest that the microbiome is the link between sleep deprivation and mental decline. So when we don't get enough sleep, imbalance in our gut causes inflammation in the brain, which manifests as anxiety and depression and contributes to the eventual development of dementia and Alzheimer's. Okay, you're probably all super tired of hearing all the ways we unknowingly negatively impact our gut microbiome and therefore our mental health. So let's switch gears and talk about what we can do about it instead. The most important thing you can do to improve your gut health is improve your diet. Your gut microbiome only has access to the food you put in your mouth. So if you're eating unhealthy foods, they're eating unhealthy foods. And this impacts the populations of good bacteria, like we've been talking about. you're actually encouraging the proliferation of bad bacteria that trigger an immune response, increase inflammation, increase leaky gut, and affect your mental well-being. So improve your diet. I'm going to list them now, and then we're going to go into each one in a little more detail. But improve your diet by removing dietary triggers like gluten, dairy, sugar, pesticides, and antibiotics. You can also take probiotic supplements, eat fiber as a prebiotic, eat anti-inflammatory foods, and take dietary supplements. So let's talk about each one of these in a little more detail. The best thing you can do is decrease or avoid foods that contain gluten, dairy, or excessive amounts of sugar. It's also a good idea to avoid processed foods because processed foods generally contain gluten, dairy, and especially sugar. So like we've learned, all those foods cause the tight gap junctions in your intestines to leak. And when your gut leaks, undesirable molecules get into your bloodstream, triggering an immune response that causes inflammation in your whole body, including your brain. A leaky gut also causes a leaky brain, and some molecules can get in and clog the communication system in your brain, and that significantly affects your mental well-being. It's also extremely important to eat organic foods so that you're minimizing your exposure to pesticides and antibiotics that kill the good bacteria in your gut. I'm very aware that we live in a modern world where eliminating exposure to all these things takes serious diligence, and it's not easy. This slide makes it look like I'm saying you should never eat anything with gluten or dairy or sugar or pesticides or antibiotics, but that's not true. I recognize that it's nearly impossible to completely avoid them, but this is where it's up to you to do only what feels comfortable and what you need to do to make yourself feel better. So if you're feeling really bad, you might want to be a little more diligent about keeping some of these things out of your diet. Sometimes it's easier to decrease exposure really slowly. It all really depends on how serious you want to get. There are tons of gluten-free options that are really delicious out there, and eating organic foods is really only a matter of buying something different at the grocery store. It's really not that much more expensive, and your health and mental well-being are more than worth it. The second thing you can do is take a probiotic. So a probiotic is a pill that contains several different kinds of good bacteria. So by taking a probiotic supplement, you're actually introducing good bacteria into your system that can recolonize your gut. These bacteria can then more effectively take care of the tight gap junctions in the intestinal lining, reversing leaky gut. It's like you're supplementing the guards at the castle gate and helping them keep the gaps tight. It's super, super important to take a probiotic after you have taken a course of antibiotics. You have to introduce good bacteria into your gut after the antibiotics have wiped almost everything out. So you can take a probiotic supplement, and you can buy it at any health food store, but you can also eat fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, tempeh, and kombucha. All these foods are full of helpful bacteria that can recolonize your gut. If your gut is full of good bacteria, the bad bacteria don't have room to colonize, and that's what you want. And prebiotics. So we talked a little bit about prebiotics earlier, but they are the food for your bacteria. And fiber is one example that we talked about earlier. So fiber is what our bacteria like to eat, especially the ones that produce butyrate. Examples of foods high in fiber are leafy greens, cooked beans, garlic, leeks, onions, asparagus, banana, apples, flaxseed, jicama, seaweed. So the bacteria ferment the fiber and produce short-chain fatty acids known as postbiotics. And one of these postbiotics is butyrate. And it soothes inflammation and keeps the tight gap junctions tight, preventing leaky gut. Research shows that butyrate can improve neurological disorders from depression to cognitive impairment by keeping those tight gap junctions in your intestinal lining tight. So optimally, our microbiome is robust, it's diverse, it's abundant, and our diet provides all the nutrients those bacteria need to produce the essential chemicals we rely on, like butyrate. But this might not be the case while we're trying to heal an unhealthy gut. So you can supplement with butyrate capsules in the meantime to ensure that you're getting all the benefits of butyrate. Another thing we can do is eat anti-inflammatory foods. So day in and day out, we're exposed to toxic contaminants that wipe out our microbiome and create inflammation throughout our bodies and our brains. We can take steps to reduce inflammation in our bodies and brains by eating certain foods like aloe vera, ginger, turmeric, celery juice, and vegetable broth. Anti-inflammatory foods contain polyphenols, and these are compounds that have anti-inflammatory, anti-aging, and antioxidant properties that offer protection for your brain and really all other parts of your body as well. So polyphenols increase the abundance and diversity of the gut microbiome, soothing inflammation. We can also take supplements. There are several dietary supplements, herbal remedies, or essential oils that you can use to aid the healing of your gut, but I'm only going to touch on one, which is L-glutamine. And L-glutamine, also known as just glutamine, is one of the most abundant and versatile amino acids in your body. It's vital for the production of many health-enhancing chemicals, but it's especially great for reducing leaky gut. And remember, if you improve leaky gut, you also improve leaky brain, which improves mood and cognitive function and decreases anxiety and depression. What else can we do to support our gut microbiome? Exercise. Exercise enhances our immune function, improves our mental health, and reduces our experiences of stress, depression, and anxiety. Exercise can even increase our production of those postbiotics like the butyrate we talked about, lowering the risk of leaky gut and improving our overall well-being. So try making exercise fun. Do it with a friend or a loved one, enjoy the outdoors, tune into how good you feel when you're moving your body. Don't think of it as a chore. Reduce stress by resting, relaxing, and breathing. So like I said before, when we're stressed, it disturbs our microbiome. Any change in our gut microbiome affects the performance of our brain, resulting in bad moods, anxiety, and depression. It's really important that we invest in activities that put our mind at ease, like meditation or just watching the sunset and enjoying a moment of quiet reflection. And don't underestimate the power of breathing. If you close your eyes and consciously slow down your breath, you're telling your body that you're safe. You aren't out there being chased by the tiger. You're at home safe in your cave. So just slowing your breathing triggers the release of a whole host of chemicals in your body that are restorative and regenerative, and they rejuvenate your cells. So a daily practice that increases your resilience to the stressful moments can go a long way in healing your gut. Get more sleep. Sleep serves as the foundation for our daily well-being. Getting a good night's rest is just as important as eating well and exercising. So getting enough sleep improves mental function, decreases inflammation, and boosts your immune system. So try powering down an hour early, get rid of your phone, the TV, your iPad, and focus on your breathing to relax your body and mind, tell them you're safe, and help you get to sleep a little bit earlier than usual. Lastly, spend time outside. Being outside in the fresh air and sunshine is a really cheap and effective medicine for anxiety and depression. Exposure to sunlight triggers the release of serotonin in your brain, which boosts your mood and helps you feel calm and focused. Decreased sun exposure has actually been associated with a drop in serotonin levels, which leads to depression, anxiety, and even panic attacks. Exposure to ultraviolet radiation also causes your skin to create vitamin D. And most people in the US have insufficient levels of vitamin D because we spend so much time indoors. And vitamin D is really important to brain function. Studies show that people with low vitamin D are at much greater risk for depression. There are vitamin D receptors in the area of your brain associated with depression. So make sure those receptors aren't empty and go outside for a minimum of 30 minutes to boost your mood. You can even just stand there in the sunshine and breathe it in. So I know I've given you a lot of information tonight, and I want you to be able to take this information and turn it into lasting change. If you've been feeling depressed or anxious for years and you feel like you've tried everything, I would love to offer my support. I work with people who are struggling to make good diet and lifestyle choices, and I help them feel happy and healthy and energetic and alive again. It's often really difficult to make the changes we need to help ourselves feel better. So when I work with clients, my main purpose is to offer them 3 key ingredients that help them turn their lives around. The first is the right system. So this is where I guide you through my 6-step program that I talked about earlier to support your health and figure out why you're stuck. We do it really gently and easily and slowly and in a manner that makes the changes sustainable. I also offer support, emotional support, and support in getting you past the roadblocks and hurdles that keep you from getting to the level of physical and mental health you're so desperately wanting. Lastly, I offer accountability. Sometimes it's so much easier to do something when you know someone is holding you accountable. It's mentally actually easier to do something for someone else than it is to do it for yourself. Ultimately, you're obviously doing it for yourself, but it really helps to know that someone cares and that someone is guiding you. So to make this time different, we need someone to help us envision the best version of ourselves, empower us to take bold action toward our goals, encourage our process, and kick us in the booty when we make bad choices. My specialty is really helping people change their habits. Habits are really strongly ingrained in us, especially if we've had them for most of our lives, and they're often really hard to break. However, our daily experience, our quality of life, is composed of all the little behaviors or habits that we practice each day. So if we change our habits, we can quite literally change our lives. Changing habits does take commitment in the beginning. This is the stage where the right system, the right support, and the right accountability are especially important. It's very easy to lose your motivation and fall off track in this stage, which is why so many of our New Year's resolutions are forgotten by February. But if you're held accountable to making your goal a daily practice, soon it will become a habit. And then the best part is that you don't have to remember to be different anymore. The new behavior is simply what you do without even thinking about it. So if you're interested in getting some help, I encourage you to book a free consultation with me. All my consultations and client sessions are always on the phone, so it doesn't matter if you live far away or that we're all on lockdown right now. In this private consultation with me, we'll develop a clear vision of what optimal health looks like for you, discover what's stopping you or slowing you down from having what you want, and determine a plan of action to finally get you the results that you've been wanting. I invite you to open up to the possibility that this time really can be different, that you haven't tried everything yet. This is an opportunity to get curious about how good you really can feel. This is your chance to claim your limitless personal power, make a non-negotiable commitment to yourself to make the changes you really want to make and that only you can make. This is your chance to do something different for a different result. Your doctor is there to treat illness, but I'm here to support you in promoting your own wellness. So if you want to get curious about how good you really can feel, I invite you to please book a free consultation with me. Remember that all my consultations and client sessions are always on the phone, so distance and COVID don't matter. You can email me or text or call me or visit my website to set up an appointment, and all the information is on this slide. So thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate all of you being here. I would love to open it up for any questions that you might have now. So please unmute yourself and speak up if you have anything to ask. You could also type your question or comment in the chat and I can answer them there too.
So Andrea, can I give you an unsolicited testimonial here?
Sure. Thanks, Daniel.
So I'll go to video here for a second. I have been working with Andrea for a while as an accountability coach, and it's been really effective. That's the main thing I can say. I need to be, pretty high performing anyway. I'm running a technology company. It's very helpful to have somebody, holding me accountable on personal life and not just on business. And Andrea's really good about that. She's also very supportive, genuinely supportive. Like when I do need a kick, which I've needed a few times, she's done that in a very supportive way.
Thank you, Daniel.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
My pleasure, actually.
Thank you so much. That was really kind. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or other comments?
Want the video?
Yeah.
Video?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Andrew. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is Ryan and Kim. Thank you for that. That was very insightful. Just a couple of questions. You talk about dairy, but what about sort of Greek yogurt with probiotics or goat's milk, and then just regular cheddar cheese? That's good, sharp cheddar cheese.
I know it's so hard to give up these things, and I'm going to be the first one to admit that I have not given it up on all dairy. I don't drink like a glass of milk anymore, but I think yogurt is, crosses the line to the health benefit because of the probiotics in it. And what was the other question you had? The goat cheese and
goat's milk.
No, yeah, the goat's milk. That goat's milk is apparently a more easily digestible protein, so that one doesn't affect people as much. And I should say that the things that I suggested, they also depend on how sensitive you are. So if you can eat dairy and not feel much of a difference, you're probably okay. I think that if you are having like achy joints or brain fog or any of the other dysfunctions, you might want to try to eliminate dairy completely and just see what happens. Sometimes we're so used to how we feel that we don't even know that we're not feeling, optimally.
Yeah.
So again, it's really up to how hardcore you want to get.
Just a couple more questions. Thank you. Antibiotics. What about if you have to take antibiotics? What about IV antibiotics? They don't?
IV? Is that what you said? IV?
Yeah. So they don't affect your gut. They go straight into your bloodstream. Like taking them on a drip or something.
Right, but your whole body works as one system. So those antibiotics. Remember, you have bacteria everywhere on you, in your eyes, your throat, your nose, your skin, everywhere. They're all over the place. So the antibiotics, even intravenous antibiotics, will
get through your whole system.
It'll go through your whole system and affect your microbiome.
And then, thank you. And then last question, just like a recommendation for a probiotic supplement, because you hear some stuff that you got to buy, some that you got to keep in the fridge, and then some, I've heard that some are actually more harmful than good, and some are just a waste, and I don't know.
If you go to like a naturopathic doctor, and if you want to get the top quality, I would go to a naturopathic doctor who has the refrigerated kind. Those are definitely the highest quality. But even some that I get at Whole Foods, which, aren't terribly expensive, they're really effective for me, I can tell. So I don't have a particular brand that I recommend. I personally use the Whole Foods brand, but you know, if you want to talk to me about that later, I can look up some stuff and see what I think would be a good one for you. But yeah, I don't have a direct answer for like which ones are bad and which ones are good for you. I'm sorry.
Okay, and then sorry, actually, last question. I had one more written down. Sorry to be a pain. What about more of an alkaline diet, so to get your kind of system more alkaline and less acidic?
Yes, that has anti-inflammatory properties for sure. Sometimes though, there is one kind of condition where you have acid reflux. I don't know if you have that, but when you have acid reflux, you actually want to eat more acid. It sounds completely counterintuitive, but the low amounts of acid in your stomach actually open that little door between your stomach and your esophagus, so you get acid into your esophagus. So that would be the only time I would say don't eat an alkaline diet, as if you have a lot of acid reflux. But other than that, yeah, alkaline diets are anti-inflammatory, so that would definitely help with your microbiome and, well, more the inflammation in your gut.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much again for your presentation.
Sure. Thank you for being here. Anybody else? All right. If there are no more questions, then I will say have a great night and thank you so much for being here. And please contact me if you're interested in a free consultation or if you need some help. So again, thanks for being here, and I hope to talk to you all at some point. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Good night.